50 or forward 50, depending what team you're on.
Just imagine the ramifications of a straight kick or an errant kick in this last 70 seconds.
Getting it to the outside, Gresham bending it! Would you believe it? St Kilda in front with a minute to go. An incredible final quarter comeback.
Well, for some Saints fans, this weekend does represent a return to watching the club live. Whilst we languish a little bit here in Victoria, unfortunately, it is bright sunshine in Queensland for more than one reason. Obviously, St Kilda taking stock in Noosa ahead of their clash with Fremantle at Metricon Stadium this week. We've got Beverly and Murray Brown from the Queensland Saints supporters group, the official supporters group for the Saints in the sunny state. And it is great that some members will be able to get along this week. But guys, thanks for joining us, and we are very envious. But yeah, I'm sure you're delighted to have the club in your state for a while.
Yes, for sure.
Thrilled.
For sure.
Thrilled. Waited a long time for a game.
So how long have you guys been, I guess, a part of, or how long has the group been there with your involvement up in Queensland for the St Kilda supporters up there, of which there are quite a few?
Yeah, we started Bev and I moved up here from Melbourne in 1990. Yeah, 1992. We started the supporter group in 1996, so it's been going all that time. Last count, we haven't got a count of numbers this year, but last year was a bit over 1,100. That's paid up members throughout Queensland. Yeah.
I think there's been a bit of a rush of memberships today.
So what are you guys doing to, I guess, promote this week? Obviously, it's a pretty big one. Most Saints fans haven't seen a game live for a long time. So what are you guys doing to I guess, promote the game now that we're in Queensland?
Facebook, just going on all the various Saints Facebook pages, promoting it. Everyone knows anyway that obviously St Kilda are up here and they just want information. So it's an easy promote. So we're just, making the most of it.
Do you often get to talk to the club and work with the players and get them to help you out in that sort of aspect of it all? Get him to promote when we do have a game up there, because it quite often doesn't happen. Do they help out in that way with getting the word out to the locals?
Yeah, no, they're good to work with. There's always a function. Whenever St Kilda play up here, there's always a function. And we have contact with them. They help us set up a function, whether it be on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane. And it's always been that way. So, yeah, it's been good.
When you've had some of the, I guess, the Queenslanders up there playing, so a Sam Gilbert, David Armitage, Max Hudson in the past, Roo, even though obviously it's Queensland via Tasmania, but do you generally get a lot of special representation from those sorts of guys, the locals, when it comes to these events?
Yeah, very much so. And all of those guys really embraced us as well, particularly in the early days when we were getting started in the late 90s, when the club was doing really well. I think they felt a special affinity with us. And there was a few more, there's been Armo and a few over the years. But yeah, I think that's a special spot for us, and they're always very obliging. We would have pre-match or post-match functions, be it on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane. Obviously on the coast when the Suns came along, and quite often would have the entire team and a couple of coaches, usually not at a pre-match, but at a post-match. And those local players were terrific, and the people really gravitated to them. But bear in mind, most of the Saints supporters up here are ex-Victorians or SA or WA or Tasmanians. There's very few true Queenslanders born and bred here that follow AFL for obvious reasons.
What was the impetus for you guys to start Queensland Saints? You said you moved up there from Melbourne and then started the group. How did that process take place?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Bev and I have been discussing all these last 23 years, the last day or two, so we knew our facts for you. It started with the SOS back in 1995, Save Our Saints. And one of our mates, who was one of those Queenslanders who'd never been to a game, but he followed St Kilda closely, a guy called Steve. And Steve said to me, and Bev, he said, what would you do if St Kilda went broke? And I just said, well, we never will. We've got a big following and, blah, blah, blah. But he said, well, what if it happened? So anyway, we contacted the club, in 1995. They sent us a huge big bag of, tins, and we went up to the Gabba and rattled tins for 3 weeks in the stinking hot, heat. And over 3 weeks, we raised $1,100. This is in 1995. And we were counting the money. Everybody was very excited by that. And Banger Harvey had just signed his new contract. And we worked out we just raised over 3 weeks enough to pay Banger's 1 week of Banger's new contract. That's how it started. So then we had a few functions, and I mentioned to Nick how we had the what we called the Legends Night in 1997, which had never been done before and has never been done since. And that's to have the 3 living triple Brownlow medalists at one function, which was here on the Gold Coast. Bobby Skilton, Dick Reynolds, and of course our own Ian Stewart. So yeah, we had functions all the way along the way, and then we had pre and post match functions. When the players, when we played up here, and it just grew and grew and grew. So I think that first year, guys, when we contacted the club for the membership list, my memory's a bit foggy, but I think we had about 25 or 30 members in Queensland, and now it's a bit over 1,100.
There was no internet back then, so it was all done by hand.
Yeah, it was all done by hand and newspaper and telephone and knocking on doors.
To grow from that small number to that larger number these days today is quite good. Obviously, to get that sort of numbers though, you've got to have the good functions. You've got to have the ability for the meeting of the supporters, or keeping them up to date with all the news and everything. Is there something that has stood out over the time going, this is what the group's about, this is what we've built it for, that just something that's stood out and gone, you've stood back and gone, this is what we've built?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And look, it hasn't just been Bev and I don't want to give you that impression. We had a committee for many years, up to 8 people on the committee, all working hard to achieve that, Aaron. And the club were a great help, giving us players and coaches at functions. And I think a lot of it, and I guess supporters of other clubs would say the same, but a lot of it was just the St Kilda passion, just the 40th quo for Dalius, and boy, in those glory years of the late 90s and 2005 leading up to 2010, it was just enormous. People came from everywhere. I think that's what drove a lot of it. And a lot of it was generational too, because you could see a family would move here, whoever they barrack for, particularly in the glory years of the Lions, and the kids would gravitate away from whoever the Victorian team was to the Lions, which is fair. Everybody wants a winner. And a lot of our parents said, we don't want that to happen to our kids. So we're going to wrap them in red, white and black and keep them, in the fold. So it was a bit of all of that. Yeah.
Now, so Tony Lockett kicked 11 against Brisbane in 1991 at the Gabba, and that sounds like that was the year before you went up there. Now, St Kilda didn't win a game in Queensland until 2006 after that. So did you feel a little bit shortchanged that we now win in Queensland quite frequently, but it was a bit of a problem venue for us for a while. We couldn't win a game in Queensland until the last round of 2006.
Yeah, we're still not real keen on the Gabba or the Lions. They were horrible years going up there, getting hammered by 100 points, seeing our players get hit around, and they were a pretty rough team, heavy-handed team back then. You know what happened to Roo, and so yeah, we still haven't forgiven them. They were difficult games to go and see. We did see St Kilda win a practice match over the Lions, though, so that was exciting.
Well, a win's a win, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Got to take it when they come. But
Exactly.
so what's it like now? Obviously, the boys are up there. What's the weather like? We're all, here it's bloody cold, it's freezing, grey and wet, and everyone's stuck indoors, I guess, luckily or unluckily. But what's it like up there for you guys?
Well, it was 22 degrees today. I probably shouldn't say that to you. But having said that, the mornings and the nights are cold up here.
They're fresh.
And as my brother-in-law in Melbourne, I was down there last year, and he said the difference in Victoria is that your homes, and our home was when we lived in Melbourne, centrally heated, or most of them. You've got a fireplace. You've got something to heat the home up. We haven't. We've only got 2 months of winter, so we don't go to that expense. So those 2 months of winter are cold for us. But, during the day it's beautiful. And you can see the way the players are enjoying the weather. I mean, Jack Steele even talked about getting a little suntan. So.
Yeah, I think it's been 22 the last 2 days here combined, that is actually. So, is there any players that you, over just the last couple of years, that in the current team that have moved into the club and you've looked at and they've just blended in and they've even done something for you and just gone, and they're there for the fans. They really embrace the fans quite well at these functions and that. And who are some of the best of that?
It's been difficult because in the last 4 years, out of the possibility of having 8 games, we've only had 1 game. And we don't include the game up in Townsville last year because Townsville is as far away as what Melbourne is. So we haven't had a chance to meet the players for a long time. So that's why we're just craving to be able to go and see them. Not that we'll have the opportunity this time either because of obvious restrictions. Jack Steele did send us a message when the first lockdown happened, but really that's been the only contact of late, just only because of lack of games up here.
And just as I guess a final one from me, a standout memory for you guys over that journey. I mean, we spoke about the wins initially were few and far between, but they've come on obviously quite strong since then. There's been some significant results up there, even particular functions, particular games that stand out. What's been your most rewarding day, I guess, out of this journey?
A couple of highlights for me. We had cocktail parties with the players and they did training up here 2 years in a row, which was 2008 and 2009. They were fantastic functions because we had a lengthy period of time with the players in a relaxed atmosphere where they didn't have to go off and play football. And Jaron Geary was very young and very shy at the time, and but having Rue and Lenny and, you know, all those champions, having access to those players 2 years in a row, they were terrific functions. Probably one of the games that stands out for me out of the few wins would be the last one up here when Gresh kicked that goal in the dying moments of the game at Metricon. I'm sure you remember that game. That was so exciting. So yeah, that was a really good one. That's our last memory.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously the grand finals, and we were down in Melbourne for them. Hundreds of Queensland Saints went down for the grand finals, including 97. But I think as far as functions, a bloke who's a complete whacker who lives up here now, Spider, and one of their early functions at the Northcliffe Surf Club. So we're going back to probably 1998, 1999. And we were running the function, but he and David Sirakowski got up on the stage and just grabbed the microphone off me and the MC and just took over the entire function. And you know what a character Spider can be. And Dave Sirakowski was as much of a character. And they just completely ran the function. And that was a highlight back in those days. I think that the Legends Night, to have the 3 living triple Brownlow medalists all at the one function on the stage, obviously talking, that was a coup. That was really quite a coup. And there's AFL people up here now, when you start talking over a beer, they say, were you there that night? Do you remember that night? Not knowing that we helped to run it. That was a very special night to have those 3 guys there. And the following, that was actually covered by Fox TV that night. Was it 1997? Yeah. And the following week, in the Footy Record, the middle page spread was all about that function. So when you think that was run on the little old Gold Coast in Queensland rather than Melbourne, we thought that was pretty special. Yeah.
To hunt down the record from that week, because I think I've got them all in the garage. So I thought
early
I'd look for it.
97 from memory. The
February.
Yeah, it was February. The cover of the record was purple from memory, or something like that. But anyway, you'll find it.
Guys, last one for me. It's a bit of a two-parter. I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you had one message for the boys in the playing group that are up there in your state now, what would it be? And secondly, if you had a message to the fans up in Queensland, what would it be this week?
Well, you do the first.
Oh, I'm going to do both, but you can do both as well. Well, for the players, just to know that the Queenslander supporters are behind them as much as the Victorian supporters. Just because we're in Queensland, it's no different to us. And for the fans, become a member and go and see our boys play while we can. Make the most of it.
Mm. And I would say for the players, and I think the club are doing this these days, I certainly hope they are, to really give the players, Dougal Howard touched on this, but to give the players an education on what the St Kilda Footy Club's all about. And we all know how many premierships we've won. We all know that. How many premiership we've won. But yeah, really teach them what the Badger Courage is all about, back in 1933 versus North Melbourne. And yeah, the whole history and the fabric of the footy club. And yeah, we've only won one flag, but heck, we could have won 5 or 6 or 7 with just a bit of luck over the years. And the other thing, the players is stick to the COVID rules. Don't break them like 2 other players have.
Yeah.
So,
and the fan, well, no different. Become a member. Don't drift off to other clubs. You just got to be patient. Everybody admits that to win a grand final, you need a bit of luck. You need things to go your way. And I'm not quoting sour grapes, but we haven't had a lot of luck in all the grand finals. And I've been to every grand final of ours, bar 1913, gentlemen. I wasn't at the 1913 one, but I've been to every one since. And you need a bit of luck to win the big ones, and we just don't seem to have had it. But that will come.
Even in 1913, we actually won that, but they had a challenge system and made us have to play it again. So we had to win that grand final twice, which kind of sums it up, unfortunately.
It does.
I had great delight telling my good mates they won 5 grand finals under the challenge system.
yeah, crazy.
But anyway, you got to do it on your own, and we will. You keep knocking on the door and keep persevering. It'll come. It'll come.
Last thing I was going to ask, do you still have the tins sitting around anywhere? Because you might need to start raising money, making sure the New South Wales can't buy the grand final.
Mm.
Yeah.
So
No,
if
we
you still
haven't
got to sit around, get out to the traffic lights and start getting a bit of money.
To wash their windows with one hand and collect money in the tin on the other. The windscreen. Wash the windscreen in one hand and the tin in the other.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Look after the boys in your state, and yeah, it's great that they've started so well, and hopefully we can keep that journey going on the Gold Coast on Saturday.
Yep, let's hope so. Thanks very much. Go Saints.
Yeah, go Saints. Thanks for the time, guys. Thank you.